Hello everyone, Pratima here. So if you're looking to get yourself a flagship smartphone and don't want to spend a lot of money, the new OnePlus 11 and the iQOO 11 are two great options for the price. However, choosing between them could be a little confusing as both of these phones bring very similar specs like the flagship Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, a good camera setup, lots of storage and memory, and a sharp 2K display. I have already reviewed both of these phones, and in this video I'll be doing a head-on comparison between the two to help you figure out which one's right for you. As always, I'll be distributing points in each round so you have a better understanding of the progress. So let's go. Okay, let's begin with the design side of things. As you can see, both of these phones have taken a very different approach to how they look. But for me, I like OnePlus's form factor because it's more compact and has these subtle curves on both the sides, whereas the iQOO 11's ergonomics are not quite on the same level. It's a bit too wide for my tiny hands, which makes using the phone with one hand quite challenging. However, I think you're absolutely going to love how fresh and unique iQOO's organic leather feels to touch compared to the plain old glass-back phones. As for the design itself, I'm not a big fan of this camera cutout on OnePlus, but looks are subjective after all, so considering all this back and forth action, it's only fair I share a point between the two phones. Having said that, the OnePlus 11 does have some upper hand as far as the design and build quality are concerned. It's the only one with an official IP64 dust and splash resistance, whereas it also brings back the beloved alert slider, so make that +1 to OnePlus. Up front, you're looking at a big 6.7 inches 2K OLED display protected by Gorilla Glass Victus on both these phones. iQOO likes to call this a 144Hz screen, but I found that the phone only hits 144Hz in a few benchmarking apps. So in practical usage, both of them have a 120Hz refresh rate. Anyway, I found both of these displays to have really good color reproduction, and their touch response is equally fast too. The iQOO 11 does have slightly better calibration by default, but you can adjust the settings on OnePlus 11 for a similar result as well. However, iQOO has a clear win as far as brightness is concerned. That's because OnePlus has used 2 generations old E4 panel here with a peak brightness of just 800 nits, whereas you get the latest E6 panel that can hit 1100 nits at best on the iQOO 11. So if you're someone who's outdoors a lot, then the iQOO 11 is going to serve you much better. On the other hand, iQOO is even offering 1440Hz PWM dimming, which is something entirely missing on the OnePlus 11. That means if your eyes are sensitive to screen flickering, then you're better off with the iQOO 11. OnePlus also does have a couple of tricks up its sleeves that you need to know. First, its curved nature means things like navigating through the screen is going to feel much more elegant. Whereas the fingerprint reader on this thing is also placed in just the right position versus how iQOO has placed it so low in such a big phone. OnePlus 11 can even play Dolby Vision content on Netflix, whereas iQOO 11 is not Dolby Vision ready, although it does have HDR10 Plus certification. Considering all this, the iQOO 11 wins this round from an objective perspective as its display is well suited for most people. As for audios, I think both their speakers definitely could have been better considering these are flagship phones. They sound good enough for listening to podcasts and watching videos, but I find some level of richness missing whenever listening to something with wider acoustic profile, especially in terms of low and high frequencies. The OnePlus 11 still manages to stand out for its noticeably spacious and louder sound signature, while the iQOO 11 sounds a bit contained. So if I have to nitpick, I will go with the OnePlus 11 speakers. Likewise, the OnePlus 11 also takes a lead for its excellent haptics. OnePlus says that it has used a 67% larger vibration motor here compared to last year's 10 Pro, and the way it has ingrained vibration feedback throughout the UI is truly spectacular. I'm not saying iQOO 11's haptics are bad or anything, but it's simply nowhere near as crisp or as powerful. In terms of performance, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip powering these phones is an absolute beast. So needless to say that you're not going to have any trouble with everyday usage here. Therefore, it all boils down to the gaming and software experience of the OnePlus 11 and the iQOO 11 to figure out which one really comes out on top. Let's start with gaming. Here, both of these phones can push even the most graphically demanding games at their highest settings, but the iQOO 11 does it effectively by keeping the temperatures in check thanks to its wider chassis and a larger vapor chamber cooling system. And in some cases, the OnePlus 11 even throttles the performance to maintain the thermals. This was clearly noticeable when I was playing Injustice 2. The phone starts with a nice 110-115 FPS at first, but plummets to around 60 FPS after just 10 minutes into the game. Moreover, the iQOO 11 even has a couple of really neat gaming tricks, making it the superior choice for gamers, including pressure-sensitive buttons and motion control, which can be really useful if you play a lot of FPS games. So how's the software side of things then? For me, both OxygenOS 13 and FunTouchOS 13 are quite reliable when it comes to day-to-day chores, but if I have to pick one, I would go with OxygenOS. There are a lot of customization options on board, and the overall UI and UX feels more thought out and coherent to me. Not that iQOO's FunTouchOS is not any fun to use or anything, but it's just not on the same level as OxygenOS. Likewise, I'm not a fan of how iQOO continues to ship its premium phones with so many bloatware apps either. In comparison, the OnePlus 11 ships practically bloatware-free. And with Google's new policies for Android devices in India, future versions of OxygenOS could get even cleaner with fewer Google apps pre-installed right out of the box. That reminds me, OnePlus is also promising 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security patches for the OnePlus 11, whereas iQOO 11 will be getting a year less on both fronts. Okay, let's talk about the cameras now. Both the OnePlus 11 and iQOO 11 bring a triple camera array at the back. As expected, OnePlus 11 also has Hasselblad optimization peppered into its cameras. iQOO has not teamed up with any camera maker or anything, but it does feature a custom V2 imaging chip for different optimizations. And right away, I can tell you that both of these phones shoot good photos. But if a great set of cameras is really what you're after, then you should be considering the Pixel 7 or even the iPhone 13 instead. So under normal daytime conditions, I found the OnePlus 11 tends to shoot dominantly warm images, which can turn out to be a bit unnatural. This type of processing does look appealing on certain occasions, but some degree of consistency would have been nice. Besides this, I find the daytime photos from both the phones to be pretty similar in terms of dynamic range, details, etc. Now, as the sun goes down, their low-light images are also equally good. The photos are sharp, they're well detailed, and they mostly differ in terms of saturation levels only. As for the ultra-wide-angle shots, iQOO 11's puny 8-megapixel camera is simply no match against OnePlus 11's 48-megapixel sensor in terms of details. I also prefer the processing and dynamic range on OnePlus more, whereas it has a wider field of view too. And OnePlus 11 also manages better details and sharpness with lesser noise in low-light conditions as well. You also get a telephoto camera on both these phones, but with just 2x optical zoom. So while they shoot decent zoom images with similar color optimization as the main sensor, I found them most useful for portraits instead. And here, the OnePlus 11 manages better color tone, better detail, and contrast level, although it tends to brighten up the subject's face a little. But still, for portraits, OnePlus does it better. Coming to the selfies, one thing I noticed right away is neither of them nails the subject's skin tone, with iQOO favoring a yellowish tint compared to how OnePlus prefers a rather reddish look. And between the two, I'm going with iQOO 11 selfies since its color processing complements the brown skin tone a little bit more. Moving on to videos, there's up to 8K recording option on both these phones if that is something you care about, at 24 FPS on OnePlus and 30 FPS on iQOO. But I still think 4K videos work just fine for 2023, and I've got to hand it to iQOO 11 as its 4K and 1080p recordings from both the main and telephoto cameras come off quite good with nice exposure, color processing, and stabilization. It can't shoot 4K ultra-wide videos like the OnePlus 11, but I don't think this matters to most people. I also found that the iQOO 11 does a better job at suppressing the background noise, so if you're planning on doing some vlogging with either one of these phones, the iQOO 11 is definitely the one you'd want in your pocket. But when it comes to selfie videos, you're limited to just 1080p 30fps mode here, and the quality of recordings is just average too. So I think it's better to leave both of them without a point in this round. With that out of the way, let's talk battery life now. The OnePlus 11 and the iQOO 11 both bring a big 5000 mAh battery that will last you a day easily with roughly 6 to 7 hours of screen on time under a heavy usage pattern. The iQOO 11 would occasionally last me about half an hour more, but I can't say that's significant enough to declare it the battery champ of the two. These phones are also neck and neck in the charging department, as both 100-watt SuperVOOC on the OnePlus 11 and 120-watt flash charge on the iQOO 11 take around 25 minutes for a complete refill. But iQOO's 120-watt charger is pretty special since, unlike OnePlus's SuperVOOC adapter, it also supports USB power delivery and PPS charging. That means it can also fill up other compatible devices like your laptop or drone, and this could come quite handy when you're traveling. Okay, let's take a final look at the scoreboard, and it looks like the OnePlus 11 has narrowly won this contest, which goes on to show how just competitive this space is right now. And based on our scoreboard, we can also figure out which phone is right for you. So if you're someone who values a more compact design, reliable software, and decent cameras above everything else, then you can't go wrong with the OnePlus 11. But if you want a more powerful gaming phone with better thermals, the iQOO 11 is a solid choice, especially if you consider the price of 55,000 Indian rupees after all the bank discounts. Anyway, I am really happy to see OnePlus finally learning its lesson and coming back to doing what it does the best. They essentially lost their way trying to chase Samsung and Apple in the ultra premium arena, but with the OnePlus 11, they are finally back. I am also happy to see a brand like iQOO improving year by year, product by product, and making almost flagship killer phones in such a short span of time. For now, I just hope iQOO expands its business to most countries because this brand has got a great future ahead. So guys, that was all for my very elaborate comparison of the OnePlus 11 and the iQOO 11. Which one would you go for? Do let us know in the comments, and keep supporting us by subscribing and hitting that notifications icon. Till then, I'm Pratima, and thank you so much for watching.